So this is the threading and tour around the mechanisms of machine number 1. This is machine number 1. Machine number 1 actually has a case, so it will come with this case that has number 1 on the top of it. Okay. This particular Kenmore is a straight stitch and a zigzag, but the zigzag on this one does not work. So this knob right here is your stitch width, and you'll need to make sure that it is pointing at all times to this little orange dot. Okay, that is your straight stitch. That's all you're going to need for this class, and it does a great straight stitch. Okay, so just make sure that your stitch width arrow is pointing to this orange dot on this knob right here. This knob right here deals with your stitch length and is also your reverse and your forward knob. Okay, stitch length first. You don't want your stitches to be, you don't want to have too many stitches per inch. Like you don't want this 24, that's going to be really tight, really small stitches. All the way down here at the bottom is 6, that's a big loose stitch. Generally where you want to keep this is somewhere up in the vicinity of the, between the 8 and the 12 on here. So you can see that we've gotten this up in that vicinity. You move it by turning this knob here, and you can see as I'm turning it, it's getting closer up to that 24 where you don't want it. So then lefty-loosey and take it all the way down and then get it down here, and so that you're somewhere in between that 8 and that 12. Okay. To back up, which I'll show you when we do a stitch on it in a few minutes, you want to hold it up, which makes it reverse, and then let it go, and then your machine will move forward. Okay, your on-off button is here. You turn that on. Okay, your light goes out, on. Okay, that's how you tell your machine is on, is when your light is on. Okay, all right. Your bobbin winder, which we talked about in a different video, is up here. Your flywheel is over to the side here, which again, you meet the flywheel in your bobbin winding video. Okay, so to thread the machine, you want to take your thread and you want to put it on one of these 2 spindles up at the top. Okay, it doesn't really matter which one, both will work. I tend to prefer the one that is closest to all of the mechanisms over here. Okay, but again, that's just my personal preference. All right, you want your thread to go from your spool over to this first keeper that's along the back of the machine, right in line with that spool. Okay, then from there, the thread will come forward to this keeper that's down on the front of the machine. Okay, so you can see where that is in relation to everything else. Okay, from there, the thread comes down and it goes through this mechanism. This is the tension mechanism. And it's really important that you leave the tension mechanism where it is when we send it to you, and only move the tension mechanism if you're in consultation with us via Zoom and we talk you through doing anything with that. Okay, it is very seldom that you need to mess with the tension mechanism. So, so please leave it where it is. It's also very important that this thread makes its way through that tension mechanism, because that's what controls the tension on your stitching. Okay, so the tension mechanism is these 2 little metal wafers, if you can see those back here, and you want your thread to sort of go right in between there, like that. Okay, then your thread is going to come around, and you see this metal piece right here. You're going to pull up on that slightly so that your thread comes up. This is hard to demo without getting my hands in the way. And then it goes behind this. Okay? So your thread comes, let's do that again, comes through here. Okay. That sort of pushes this up. Okay. And then is behind that mechanism right there. Okay. From there, it comes up and goes through this keeper right here. Okay. Take it to the back side and just slide it through, and you don't need to poke it up through there, it just sort of slides in. There's a little slit back there. Okay. Then your thread's going to come up and it's going to go through this top like that. Okay. Then it's going to come down through a keeper right here. Okay. Then it's going to go through, there's a little keeper right here, and it can go to either side. I would take it to the left-hand side, and there you just sort of pop it in. Okay. Then there is another little keeper to the side of the needle right here. Okay. To get through that one, sort of bring it to the front, and again it'll just sort of wind its way through there. Okay. The last thing you want to do is you want your thread to go through your needle. And on sewing machines generally thread from the side in which the bobbin is located. This bobbin is located on the left going in, so your needle is going to thread from left to right. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I have a good end on that thread. And we're going to see if we can get it to go through the needle here. There we go. Okay, so your needle is threaded. Again, going from left to right because that's where your bobbin casing is located. Okay, last thing, let's get your bobbin in and then you'll be ready to sew. So down here in the bottom, if you can see in here, there is this little casing right in here. Okay, looking at that, you can see this little tab. Okay, you want to pull up on that and just slide that right out. Okay, pulling up on it sort of releases it. Okay, this is your bobbin casing. It holds this little gizmo right here that you might have wound in that earlier video. Okay, holding your bobbin up, look at it and make sure that your thread is spooling off to the right as you're looking at it, and then pop it into your casing with your thread spooling off to your right. Okay, looking at the top of the casing, you see that little notch there. Okay, take your thread into that notch, then you bring it around and it sort of slides underneath that metal piece and is feeding out through that little hole right there. Okay, just like that. Now you want to take your bobbin casing so that it's looking at you, okay, like this, with that little arm on it and this pointing up. Okay, if you look inside of here, it's hard to see, it's a little dim in there, but you can see that little notch up at the top there on your bobbin casing. Okay, you want to take and put this in so that that little arm is right in line with that notch. Okay, once that happens, then you want to give it a push. Okay, and you hear that click, that's a good sign. Okay, then move it a little and see if you can move it, and I can't, and that's a good sign, and it should be in. Okay, now we want to get this thread up on the top with this thread. Okay, to do that, hang on to your thread that's at the top over to the side. I'm going to do that with my left hand like this. Then take your flywheel, which is this big knob over here to the right hand side, and turn it towards you. Okay, like that. As you turn it towards you, the needle will go down. Okay, keep turning it towards you. Keep turning it towards you. And it picks up that thread from down below. Okay, now you can grab that thread from down below, pull it out, and both of your threads are on the top. Okay, now you're able to close this up. Okay, this just slides in and out of there like that. Okay, close that up, and you're ready to sew.